بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. We have Surah An'am today. So Surah An'am before was Surah Ma'idah we've completed. This is a summary of some points and some aspects and some themes of Surah An'am. So Surah An'am starts off in the 7th juz of the Quran, around a quarter, and finishes off halfway through 8. We'll be completing 8 today, so I'm still catching up, but we'll be completing some of it at least today, inshallah. So Surah An'am. An'am means cattle. So you have livestock, you have those animals. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about animals and livestock, and we'll come up to the exact aspect of those later on, inshallah. But they're like domesticated animals. So this surah, you have, I mentioned that the previous few surahs, they're like Madani surahs in Medina. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has got Medina, and these ayats are revealing in Medina. This is actually now Makkah. So this is now to do with Makkah, and now this is late Makkah, mid to late Makkah, and it's a different style. So example, in Medina, now they've got a bit of power, they've got authority, they've got their own place. But in Makkah, they didn't have their own place. So there was a bit of different theme. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to send down different types of ayats for the different situation. And the wording was different. And there's like more than 150 verses, 165 verses inside of this surah. Umar radiallahu an mentioned that this surah is one of the beauties and the glories of the Quran. It's one of the beauties and the glories of the Quran. That it's something that you should read, and then when you understand the meaning and the theme behind it and why Allah is sending these types of ayats of the Quran, then you realize it's got a different meaning to it, and then it has a different effect on you. So what are the main three? And this is the same as all of the Makki surah. All of the surahs that are revealed in Makkah, they all have a similar theme. And what is the theme? There's three main things. Number one is Tawheed and the oneness of Allah, because you're in a society that is full of mushrikeen and they have idol worship and so forth. So now you're looking at Tawheed of Allah. Number two is Risalat, is to do with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his coming, his prophethood, his nubuwwah. And what happened is, you would find, obviously they didn't believe in the Prophet of Allah. They didn't believe that he was a prophet. They didn't know what a Nabi was. So now Risalat is coming just to show that yes, there is a prophet and something called a prophet and a messenger, and he's coming with the truth and so forth. And lastly is the Akhirat. Why? Because they didn't believe in the Akhirah, they didn't know what's going to happen in the Akhirah. So then the theme is obviously the Akhirah as well, that there will be, when your bones go in decay, then Allah will resurrect you again. So these are the three main themes: Tawheed, Risalat, Akhirat. Tawheed, Risalat, and Akhirat in Surah An'am and a lot of the Makki surahs. In this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges all of the idol worship. So why are you worshipping idols for? Why are you worshipping idols for? This paganism. Why are you worshipping all of these? So it challenges this paganism. And they're kind of refusing to believe in the Prophet, refusing to believe in the Quran, and the stubbornness that they had. So this was what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslimin had to try and face. In verse number 1 and onwards, so I'll mention regarding as much verses as I can, inshallah. Allah says, Alhamdulillah alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal ard wa ja'ala adh-dhulumati wan nur thumma alladhina kafaru bi rabbihim ya'dilun. Look at the creation around you. Look how much you have: the skies, the earth, the trees, the animals, everything you see around you. Be appreciative. Allah has given all of that just for you. Allah has made the trees just for you, for insan. Allah has made, and Allah mentions inside of the Quran, that even the livestock, even the animals, is being made for you. I mean, you can kill them and have their meat and eat. You can ride them, as in for transport. You can use their skin as for clothing. And there's so many other benefits. But Allah mentions these benefits, but all of that is for insan. It's for insan. Everything created around you is for insan. So be appreciative. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Be appreciative. Rather than those people, they turn to someone else other than Allah. They appreciate these idols rather than appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verse 6, verse 13 and 18, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then talks about, again, this is the whole concept of Tawheed, oneness of Allah. So these first few ayats, I'll just talk about this theme of Tawheed. So Allah talks about regarding the look at your history before you. Look at what's happened before you. Look how many people got destroyed because they done the exact same thing as you. They worship idols. They got destroyed. So who was the one that destroyed them? It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Believe in the one that's created you, created the people before you, and also destroyed the people before you as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned verse number 13 that every creature was underneath His control. That everything you see around you is underneath the grasp of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, look at the creation, you will find the Creator. Allah says, وَهُوَ الْقَاهِرُ فَوْقَ عِبَادِهِ وَيُرْسِلَ عَلَيْكُمْ حَفَظًا. So Allah talks about regarding He is Qadir. He is the one that Qahir. He is the strong. He is the powerful. He is the one that is got all of this might. This is the one, and He's above His slaves. He's above everything that you can see. This is Allah. So worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah then mentions وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا وَلَا حَبَّةٍ. So Allah talks about regarding this very famous ayat that وَعِنْدَهُ, that with Him is مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ, that it talks about the keys to the unseen. Who knows about the unseen? Only Allah knows about the unseen. When is the day of judgment? Only Allah knows. When is the world when are you going to die? Only Allah knows. Ghaib, the unseen, is only known towards Allah. So if you know something that no one else knows, you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala know it, no one else. This is something which is khas, something which is specific towards Allah, meaning worship Allah because He is the knower of the unseen. لا يعلمها إلا هو, that only Allah knows certain things. And He mentions here regarding that certain things that a person knows, and it's a very famous ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that every single leaf that falls from the tree. Now how many leaves can fall from a tree? Can it be counted? And every single one in the world as well, can it be counted? Only Allah knows the number. Only Allah knows the number. لا يعلمها إلا هو ويعلم ما في البر والبحر. Everything which is in the earth, which is in the seas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. So the ilm and the knowledge is there from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one else knows it except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah knows even a leaf that falls from the ground. Without the permission of Allah, it doesn't fall. Without the permission of Allah, it doesn't fall. But yet, if it gets the permission of Allah, then it falls. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Tawheed. This is the Creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the power and the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and combines that, the power of Allah and also the knowledge of Allah. وَهُوَ الَّذِي يَتَوَفَّاكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا جَرَحْتُم مِّن نَهَارٍ ثُمَّ يَبْعَثُكُمْ فِيهِ لِيُقْضَى أَجَلٌ مُّسَمًّى. That you'll be recreated, that you will be now of a certain time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions regarding يَتَوَفَّاكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ, and it talks about regarding how a person gets sleep in the night time. وَيَعْلَمُ مَا جَرَحْتُم بِالنَّهَارِ, and Allah talks about regarding the day and the night and what is for and the purposes behind it. Allah is the one that is in charge of this. Allah is the one that's controlling the whole system. Allah is the one. إِنَّ اللَّهَ فَالِقُ الْحَبِّ وَالنَّوَىٰ. How you put a seed and inside of the seed it goes into the ground. But if you open and it becomes a huge massive tree, and then you see another seed, do you think you can open up the seed and see a mini tree inside? No, how can you do this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that if you put it inside and there's a system that works, that it becomes a tree which is 20, 50, 100 meters tall. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah faliqul habbi wan nawa. He is in charge of the tree. He's in charge of the seed. He's in charge of everything that's small that you see and how it becomes so big. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one behind all of this. Allah is the one behind all of the miracles of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The different species that you see, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How much species that we know just of in the sea, that we know of and that we don't know of as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned regarding the beautiful skies you see there at Maghrib time. When you're going back home and you see the sky in red color, in orange color, in yellow color, in white color, in light blue, all the different colors. Who's in charge of this? Who's the one that's created this? This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. The only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ilah, is the God, is the one that is worthy of worship. خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ فَاعْبُدُوهُ. He has created everything. So what is it supposed to do? What is insan supposed to do? فَاعْبُدُوهُ. We're supposed to worship Him. We're supposed to recognize Him. We're supposed to appreciate Him. We're supposed to not be disobedient towards Him. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. This is what Allah is telling the Quraysh, that you have to acknowledge a higher power and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather than these idols that can't do anything. How can they create everything that I've just mentioned here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the method that Allah appeals to human beings and the nature of human beings, and how all of the distresses that happen, that when you see a human being, verse number 46, 47, verse number 63, who else do you call to when you're in trouble? Who else, when it happens, when the plane is about to crash, Even an atheist will say, yeah, oh God, help me out. If there's a God out there, then help me out. When you're in the middle of the ocean and there's nothing else to help you, it's darkness and you can't go anywhere, then you call out to God. Then you call out to distress. And Allah doesn't criticize the person. Allah never criticizes the person when calling out in a hardship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, welcome. Allah's door is open. Allah's door is open for that. That you're calling out in distress and difficulty, you're calling out towards Allah. No worries. Allah does this. But He criticizes that what you do afterwards. That now you realize there's an Allah. Now you realize there's a God. Now you realize there's a Creator. So then go and worship Him. Go and appreciate Him. Go and be grateful towards Him. Rather than turning away and going back to your old ways. This is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So it is Allah that responds to your call. Verse number 64. Allah answers, even a dua of a mushrikeen. تدعونه تضرعوا وخفيا لئن أنجانا من هذه لنكونن من الشاكرين. Allah talks about regarding that even the mushrikeen, they make dua in the middle of the ocean and they're in trouble. They make dua. Allah listens to the dua. Allah accepts the dua. Not only that, shaitan, Iblis, even his dua got accepted. Even his dua got accepted. He asked Allah, أنظرني إلى يوم يبعثون. Make me stay alive until the day of judgment. He goes, alright, I'll accept your dua. I'll accept your request. So even he's making a dua towards Allah. Even Iblis' dua gets accepted. So what about our duas? Why aren't we making duas? Are we really losing hope that I can't be forgiven? Or I can't be this or I can't be that? No. We have our du'as. If Iblis' du'as get accepted, then mine surely has a better chance. So then, this is something that you should really increase in your du'as as well. So Allah subhanahu mentioned regarding, this is the tawheed aspect. Second aspect is risalat. Risalat is to do with the prophethood and nubuwwat and messengership of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have prophets and books that have been sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verse 91 in Surah An'am. Allah talks about risalat and tawheed. وَمَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حق قدره إذ قالوا ما أنزل الله على بشر من شيء قل من أنزل الكتاب الذي جاء به موسى نورا وهدى للناس تجعلونه قراطيس تبطونها وتخفون كثيرا. Allah talks about regarding that if you deny prophethood, then you're not recognizing the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, if Allah was to create the earth for you, everything perfect for you, and then not send you the manual. Example, if I give you a very complex machine and I don't give you the manual behind it, then what's the point of the machine? I don't have the manual, I don't know how it works, I don't know what to do. Sometimes you get one of those things online, right? You get or maybe a washing machine or something. Oh, you don't know how this works, there's so many buttons. Oh, this got this, let me see the manual. Oh, you see the manual, then you know how it works, and this works and that works. Then it becomes much more apparent about, okay, this is that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this world, then the manual is our Quran. The person describing the manual and explaining is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah is giving us this guidance as well. He's not going to leave you without guidance. He's not going to leave you without a prophet and a book and someone to tell you exactly what to do. Allah has given us this earth and it's for a certain reason. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions regarding that this is the qualities of Allah. You realize the prophet, that he's coming, then you realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His mercy, His wisdom, His majesty. You're going to take away the majesty of Allah if you think that you're going to deny the prophet. So Allah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why would He create you and not guide you? The Prophet is there for our guidance as well. Verse number 114, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned He revealed the book, Kitabun Anzalnahu, that He has revealed this book and it's full of barakah, it's full of mubarak, it's full of blessings as well. So the more you read the book, the more you understand the book, the more you have tadabbur and tafakkur and tadhakkur of the book, then there's barakah inside of your life. Then you see blessings inside of your life, blessings in your health, in your wealth, in your time, in your family, everything that you have, you'll find blessings inside. And this is what Allah mentioned. Verse number 38, Allah mentioned, مَا فَرَّطْنَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And nothing has been left out in the Quran. It's all encompassing. Everything that you'll find answers inside of the Quran in itself. Verse number 50, the Prophet, he mentions that he is a human being though. He is a human being. يَقُولَ أَقُولَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي خَزَائِنَ اللَّهِ. That I don't have the khaza'in of Allah. I don't know about the ghaib. I don't know about the unseen. وَلَا أَقُولَ لَكُمْ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ. I don't have all of these answers. But whatever Allah has given me, this is what I have. This is what I have and I'm giving you what Allah has given me. But I don't have I'm just a human being like yourself. but Allah has given me a responsibility, and Allah has given me a task, and so forth. So there are many verses also in Surah An'am that console Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he's being rejected left, right and center. This person's going, he's rejecting. That person's going, he's rejecting. He's feeling bad. He's feeling that, am I even doing my job properly? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, verses 33 and 34, He says, we know what they say hurts you. We know that the mushrikeen, what they say hurts you. They are not rejecting you, rather they're rejecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't worry, they're just rejecting Allah. They're not rejecting you actually, they're rejecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're saying that the previous prophets, they were also rejected in the past. Many prophets have come to you, they've also been rejected. And then what had happened? They persevered. They showed sabr. وصبروا على ما كذبوا وأوذوا حتى أتاهم نصرنا ولا مبدل لكلمات الله ولقد جاءك من نبأ المرسلين. So what happened is that they made perseverance, they made sabr, and then the punishment came for those people. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned regarding that, they also are successful as well. Don't worry about it. So Allah is consoling Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you follow the path of the prophets, and then a person who follows the footsteps of the prophets, then you know the difficulties are gonna come your way. That he never lied, but he got accused of lying. He never lied in his life. He got accused of lying. You know when a person, he never lies in his life. You remember yourself? Look at yourself. I never lied in my life. And someone accused you of lying, you get hot-tempered, you get angry. You say, oh, I've never lied. Even somebody accuses you and you're right. You never lied, or you've never lied in that situation. Then what happened? You told the truth, and this person, everyone's accusing you, you're a liar. How would you feel? You say, no, I'm not a liar. You try to defend yourself. This is how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is feeling. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is consoling Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they also asked the mushrikeen of Makkah in Surah An'am, verse number 35, 37, verse number 7, verse number 8, that about miracles. That show us a miracle. If you're a prophet, come and show us a miracle. Eagerness to attain this. The Prophet ﷺ was very eager to try and attain miracles and so forth. And why not? Why don't you have a sign with you? Why don't you have an angel with you? Why does an angel come down and so forth? Once the miracle. But the thing is that once a miracle comes, Allah mentions in Surah ayat number 7. Now, once a miracle comes, if I show you the miracle and the unseen, and you reject it, then everyone's dead. Then the punishment will come. So are you ready for this? So this is why that Rasulullah never actually asked for certain miracles, and I'd rather not. I'd rather take the safe route and keep making da'wah. Because if a miracle were to come and people reject this, then the system of Allah is going to be full on punishment, and there's no one going to be spared except for whoever Allah wishes. So Allah mentioned regarding this, they say, an angel should come, they should be doing this and they should be doing that, but they can't see, no one can see an angel in their real form. So the angel will come as a human being. There's, no, but they're human beings and they're not angels and so forth, and they'll dispute this and they'll dispute and they'll dispute and they'll keep the disputing. If their hearts are closed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closed it. Then Allah mentions there regarding Akhirat, the third theme, Akhirat, yeah? So I said Tawheed, oneness of Allah. Risalat was the prophethood, and the last one is the Akhirat. So verse number 12, Allah says that will gather you on the day of judgment. Verse number 31, that you said that a person has lost everything on the day of judgment. And then وَيَحْمِلُونَ أَوْزَارَهُمْ عَلَى ظُهُورِهِمْ. What will happen? أَلَا سَاءَ مَا يَزِرُونَ. What will happen? They will be carrying their own burdens on the day of judgment. And then it will be completely lost. Because what burdens are they carrying? They're carrying absolutely nothing, which weighs nothing. Why? Because none of their worship was full of insincerity, was for showing off, was for this reason, was for that reason. It wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then what happened? He's going to have a heavy load, but be worth absolutely nothing. Allah says, verse number 94, that come to us one-on-one, وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَ فُرَادًا, one-on-one with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then I'll question you, then I'll ask you, then you're going to be see, and then a person will realize this. Verse number 130, يَا مَعْشَرَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ إِنِ اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Allah talks about regarding the jinn and the humans. Didn't we warn you? Didn't we send you a prophet? أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ رُسُلٌ مِّنْكُمْ يَقُصُّونَ عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِي. The luxury of this world deceived you. Meaning what? Akhirah is also there. This world is also temporary. This is how all of the different things of Akhirah has also been mentioned. I'll finish on a few other parts. Allah talks about the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam in Surah An'am as well, and his nation, and how he saw the star and the moon and the sun and rejected it all. Allah said, no, I'm following Allah. But everyone, a very misconception is that people thought that Ibrahim is searching for the truth. So he looked at the sky and he looked at the star. He wasn't searching for the truth. He knew the truth from before. He knew Allah. He's debating with other people, trying to make them see that these other things that you see around you, the moon and the stars and the sun, they're not worthy of worship. But Allah is worthy of it. He knew that from before. But he's trying to teach the other people and show the other people. Allah also mentioned in Surah An'am 18 prophets at one time. 18 prophets in a number of ayats of the Quran as well. This is also mentioned in Surah An'am. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about regarding the different aspects of why the reasons were revealed and so forth. What I wanted to mention at the end was why it's called An'am. An'am is called cattle. So cattle, livestock, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in Makkah generally there's hardly any laws because they don't have authority yet. Many of the laws and ahkam came in Medina. So there's hardly any laws in Makkah except for one or two. And that one or two is what has been mentioned in this surah. So Allah talks about the purity of the food and the purity of money. That if your income is halal and your meat and your whatever you eat is also halal, it must be halal. So there's no laws of salah, no laws of anything else. But you have to have halal income and halal meat coming into your body. Those are the two in Makkah. Those were the two main ahkam. Halal income and halal food. So verse number 141 mentions regarding zakat and crops and what comes out. That makes sure that you have to give something as well. That clean your wealth through giving out zakat and so forth. 143, 145, Allah talks about the list of animals. من الضأن اثنين ومن المعز اثنين قل الذكرين حرم من الأنثيين. So Allah talks about regarding the list of animals that are allowed, that are not allowed, and the practices of Jahiliyyah, what they used to do. Don't have those. If they do practices of Jahiliyyah on those animals, leave them. It's haram. Stay away from those things. But rather go and then say, you have to say ذُكِرَ اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ لَمْ يُذْكَرِ اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. You must say the name of Allah before slaughtering, and there's a certain way to slaughter. Verse number 118 to 121. Eat pure animals, and only those animals that Allah's name has been mentioned. And وَلَمْ يُذْكَرِ اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَإِنَّهُ لَفِسْقٌ. That if you don't say the name of Allah on your animal, then what happens? وَإِنَّهُ لَفِسْقٌ. That will be haram for you. It's not allowed for you. This is what Allah mentions. So in Makkah, of all of the ahkam that came later on of Hajj, of Ramadan, of Salah, everything. First thing was get your money right and get your food right. Halal food and halal money. So that's been there from right at the beginning, early on in Islam. That's where you'll find these laws of Islam. This is why it's very important to realize that when a person is trying to do as much as possible in his ibadat, don't forget about your halal food and your halal income. That make sure that is halal, because everything will go to waste if you're nourished by haram. If you can do all the du'as holding on to the Kaaba in itself, and you can make du'a and cry in front of the stone, the Kaaba and so forth, nothing will get accepted except if he has nourished himself with haram food. His du'a doesn't get accepted, he's got haram money and so forth. So be very wary of this. Clean your money through zakat, clean your money through sadaqah and so zakat, and watch what you eat. Be very aware of where you get your meat from, where your chicken is coming from, everything. Make sure it's halal. Do research, double check, triple check, because you don't want to eat haram and you don't want to ruin all of your fasting and your worship because of this. And the last page mentions regarding that if a person takes his man ja'a bil hasanati falahu ashru amthaliha, that a person has hasana, he does a good, Allah will times it by 10 on the day of judgment. But the condition is you have to take it all the way to the day of judgment. Meaning, don't do certain acts that will cancel out your good deeds. By going backbiting, by going doing this and so forth. Don't cancel out your good deed. Take it with you, protect it, and then go towards the day of judgment. Then you get times it by 10. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to act upon what has been said. Just a few announcements, inshallah. What is it? Thursday? Saturday, inshallah, we have a youth iftar. So you have a youth iftar, inshallah. Please call all of your children, so your mainly youth, ages 12 to 24. So we want them to try and come for the Saturday iftar, inshallah. We've got meals ready and we've got programs ready for them as well, inshallah, from Asr to Maghrib. So please try and come for that. The girls one will be on the Sunday, but I think that's more restricted. But for the boys, inshallah, try to register as much as possible. We will have the little QR code, but try and contact me or the other brothers who are in charge of the youth programs, inshallah. So there will be that as well. The other one was shoes, yes. A lot of people have similar shoes, right, on the shoe rack. So first of all, everyone should be putting their shoes in the shoe rack, yeah? Number one. Number two, when you're taking your shoes, please check which shoes you're taking. Yeah, lots of people are coming to me and say, can you check the CCTV, please? They have taken my shoes, they're taking my shoes, and then they take it back and so forth. So please just check where you left your shoes, and then make sure, I don't know, write your name on it or something, but do something about shoes. Please be wary, don't take anybody else's shoes. This has been a common complaint in masjids all around the globe. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the ability to act upon what's been said. Make sure, inshallah, everyone stand up, try and make the safs as soon as possible, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.